Hello and welcome back, everyone. My name is Sky Denton. I am the host, and I'm happy that you're here at the Ankylosing Spondylitis Reduce Your Pain podcast. Today's show is very near and dear to my heart, and it's something I really wanted to connect with you all on today because it is a common source of stress in all of our lives. What it is patience and impatience. When I was learning to heal from AS, I started to recognize very strong patterns in my behavior of how impatient I was being towards myself and in how I was expecting things to show up in the world around me. I had a constant pursuit of perfection, a constant pursuit of high achievement and reaching these benchmarks of success and ideals in my mind. And that's all fine. It's great to have dreams and to have goals and to feel inspired to do them. What was not healthy about it was my level of impatience around how quickly I was able to succeed at a certain thing, or how quickly the business venture developed and became a solvent company, or any number of things that just didn't show up exactly how I wanted them to. It would create pretty high levels of impatience in my mind and in my body. And as you all know, stress is the root of ankylosing spondylitis. It is the unconscious, unresolved, long-term emotional pain that all of us have lived in that ultimately compounds to finally create enough stressors and triggers in the body where genetically a switch is flipped and all of a sudden our immune system starts attacking ourselves and we get the inflammatory response that is diagnosed as ankylosing spondylitis. So this concept of patience is something that is working either for our health or against our better health. So as you listen to this show, think about the experiences that Peter and I have discovered about patience in our own life and take from it the top 10% of what we're talking about that really resonates with you and apply it to your life in order to create more patience. And Peter says something early on, and I'm going to preface it here. He said that the more patience we have, the higher quality of life we live. And that is very, very true. When we choose to be patient, all of a sudden our hearts are more open. We live in a more giving and forgiving way. We let things come to us in a way that is quite easy. And we didn't have to strive and reach and kick our own butts in order to get there. They came to us quite naturally. And as I have developed more and more patience in life, it is one of the things that has kept ankylosing spondylitis away. I was out of pain completely for a year after I stopped working with Peter. And then a year after that, there was a death in my family. And all of a sudden, pain came back. And I remember being impatient and so bummed because I was like, oh, I thought I was done with this. And I started to get impatient. But quickly I recognized that, hey, I had healed from such a crippling case of ankylosing spondylitis and been pain-free for a year. And all of a sudden, a little bit of pain comes back. I'm like, I can handle this. The first thing that I employed was patience to myself and to the situation. The more patient we can become, the higher quality of life we live. And I could be patient with what was going on with my body, and it didn't last very long. That is one of the gold nuggets I want you to take from today's podcast, is that patience does not mean things have to take forever. Doesn't mean we sit in the waiting line forever and ever and ever. It can actually happen very quickly. And we will talk about that later in the show. So thank you all for being here. Here is Peter Winslow. Hey, Peter, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Skylar. Good to see you, man. You're dressed in blue today, huh? We'll call you Sky Blue. All right, so what are we up to today?
Well, today I wanted to connect with our audience around the topic of patience and its role in the healing process from ankylosing spondylitis. And as you know, and as I know, when we're in an AS flare up, it just hurts. And all we want is to be out of the pain as fast as possible. And I've noticed that it creates stress when I'm wanting something to be different than what it is, anything in life, especially when I'm in pain and I want out of it. So, what are your thoughts on patience, on the healing process?
So it's certainly a healing quality, and people who have a great amount of patience live better quality of lives than the rest of us. Now, basically speaking, there are only two attitudes that people can have. Now, psychologists could break it down to 2 or 20 or 200 or 2,000 different attitudes, but there's really only two. One of them is resistance, and the other is acceptance. So any attitude that you have is resistance or acceptance. Patience is acceptance of what is, and that alleviates stress and fosters healing. So people need to learn this to be able to calm themselves and take themselves out of the stressful nature of their conditions so that their body can rebuild itself more effectively and more promptly, and they can feel those results more speedily.
Mhm.
So it's certainly a virtue. You know, everybody's heard that adage that says patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
But what does that really mean, right? So that's an ancient adage, and it means it's a skill that we develop that changes our lives for the better.
hmm Yeah. I love what you say about the more patience we have, the higher quality of life we're going to have as well. And I can feel a sudden peace of mind that comes about when I allow myself to just be patient. I feel better immediately.
Immediately, immediate results.
Yeah.
Infinite patience pays immediate results. If you can live and understand that axiom, you will change your life for the better immediately. It's true.
So, Peter, in your process years ago, when you were reclaiming your life from pain and AS, where did patience fit in with that, with the idea of what you were going through at the time? How did it work for you?
Well, I used it as a superpower, actually, Skylar, because I didn't really develop patience as in I'm going to try and deal with this for as long as it takes. I just left it behind. I didn't focus on the pain and the suffering and the flare-ups any longer. And I didn't have any medications because there were no biologics or any other pain solutions that existed in those days. So I just dealt with the flare-ups. I just had the pain and it hit every day. So rather than try to develop patience with it, patience came along with what I was developing anyway as personal strength and inner awareness. And so eventually I got to the point where I learned how to leave it all behind and focus on what I intended to experience rather than trying to get rid of what I didn't want. So you could say that that's a form of patience. I just outlived it. In fact, that's the language my dad used when I told him that I didn't have AS anymore. After, injuring myself at the age of 20, being diagnosed at the age of 24, and at the age of 30, leaving it behind. He said, "Oh, you just outgrew it, did you?" And I thought that was an apropos description.
Mm-hmm.
Just outgrew the condition. So it was 10 years of suffering, and now I've been, about 30 years of freedom. So that's a small price to pay, if you ask me. And certainly acceptance instead of resistance was a key factor for me in letting it go. And that's what patience is acceptance.
Mm-hmm. So, was there a period of time in your life when you were very impatient regarding the pain?
Was I impatient? Oh boy, man. Yeah, that could have been my middle name. I think I had that tattooed on my forehead one time.
Yeah.
Impatient was my MO. And that's what led to the condition of chronic illness. It forced me to slow down. It forced me to take stock of who I really am and learn more about the lessons that were inherent in the condition and the disease.
Mm-hmm.
So impatience doesn't help at all. And it broke me of my impatience. I've had a lot of challenges in my life, and all of them have imparted to me deep spiritual lessons. patience is a virtue, and that impatience will lead you where you don't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody can understand what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
But how do you do it? How do you become patient?
Well, I think that patience for me was one of the biggest lessons I learned from the experience that I had that was ankylosing spondylitis. Before the pain set on, I was really impatient with how quickly I wanted to achieve things, how fast I wanted my life to progress. And there was constant friction there because what I could imagine in my mind wasn't always playing out in real life. I could imagine being a really good surfer. I could imagine excelling. I could imagine starting businesses. And I was really impatient at how slow they came about. And that constant kind of hammering away at progression and then being impatient about it was definitely a contributor in my nervous system and stress levels that ultimately became diagnosed as ankylosing spondylitis. Sounds like you had some of that in your past as well, right?
Very similar track, yes.
Yeah.
I wanted it, and I wanted it now.
Yeah.
There's a song by Queen that goes like that. It says, I want it all, I want it all, I want it all, and I want it now.
Yeah.
And the lead singer of Queen lived a very short life.
Hmm.
Freddie Mercury died at the age of 40 or so, I think, rushing through life.
Mm-hmm.
So patience certainly wasn't the virtue that he espoused. However, for the rest of us, it's a very deep and spiritual lesson. And so that's why one of my habits that heal references that directly. Let's go there.
Cool. And I love this habit. So Winslow's Habits That Heal lesson number 21. Everyone listen closely because this is so good. Infinite patience pays immediate rewards. Today's lesson is a spiritual practice, and the sooner you begin, the stronger you become. Infinite patience pays immediate rewards. When we hear this, it sounds contradictory. It's contradictory because we have been programmed to think that patience equals a long, long wait. But that is not always the case. In fact, patience has a much wider meaning. To have patience means that we have surrendered fear. Thus, we have given up emotional attachments to negative outcomes. We are then immediately free and liberated from emotional suffering. This state of being then produces a deep and profound confidence. We know that whatever comes our way carries a divine lesson for us, and we can handle it. This is true personal power, a power that influences the mind-body continuum in miraculous ways. The good news is, patience is a skill that can be learned. And the more we exercise patience, the more likely we are to live a happy and healthy life.
Says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Peter, I've been on the phone recently with a number of people who've been feeling really impatient. They not only are dealing with pain and a diagnosis, they're also stuck with family. Their colleges are shut down. They're sitting on a computer, and there's a lot of kind of compounding things in their environment that are asking them to be patient. And you bring something really important to the table with what you say about how we've been programmed to think that patience equals a long, long wait. Because I know that when I was healing from AS, you would talk to me about patience. And you would say, Sky, the more patient you can be, the faster this is going to happen. And it makes sense because the more patient I was, the more relaxed my nervous system would be. And that's where
Absolutely.
healing comes from.
Absolutely true. So
Yeah.
you flipped that switch in your own life and you saw the results pretty rapidly. So what is patience? It's a question that people ask, and how do I do it? So for our purposes, we can say that patience is the opposite of impatience. And simply put, impatience is just resistance to what is, resistance to fear.
Mm-hmm.
So this resistance is an attitude and it becomes an unconscious attachment to suffering, an attachment to how things should be. And when this attachment doesn't get what it wants, it creates suffering in our lives. So technically speaking, impatience is really just another word for suffering, which is a very powerful form of resistance in our lives. So when we learn how to surrender this resistance, we no longer suffer from it. So then we're no longer stressed out. We become relaxed. That's what you did. That's what you noticed in this training. We become patient. And that means we no longer react negatively when our egoic attachment to suffering doesn't get what it wants. So these are deep viewpoints that people want to understand if they're on the healing journey. And once they've shifted to this viewpoint and created this inner frequency, this attitude within themselves, then they can focus more on themselves and on the positive outcomes that they intend to create. So then we all can put our efforts mindfully into making those desired outcomes manifest. This is a power that we hold within us, and this power is entirely within our grasp, and it creates immediate positive results in our lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I like that you bring up the point of how being impatient, like the more impatient we are, the more we're suffering.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Resistance to what is.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't like what is, and so we're resisting what is. And how do you get what you want by resisting what is? You don't.
Yeah, we just get stressed out. It just adds another layer of stress on top of what the body is always like dealing with anyway and trying to heal from.
So now we're working against ourselves and working against our bodies instead of letting it flow and work with our bodies rather than working against them. That's one of the main things that people want to understand from mind-body training and healing from these so-called chronic conditions. What the medical approach in the West is to fight, right? To fight the condition, to fight the symptoms, to fight the situation and the illness in our lives. So we're fighting against our own bodies. We're fighting our bodies. And as you've heard me say before, when you fight with yourself, who wins?
Mm-hmm.
No one wins. So therefore, they declare that this condition is incurable. There's no cure. We're just going to fight it because we can try and help you live a better quality of life, but we're fighting against you and your body. It's we fighting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of working with ourselves, which is what patience helps us to do, flow with the body and with the flow of what is instead of against it. And that's one of the main things that people need to understand, to work with the body, not against the body.
Yeah, that's great. There are certain laws of nature that our bodies run by. And one of them is that when we are patient, for example, the body's more relaxed. And we all know that when we're relaxed, that's when the healing happens.
Absolutely right. This is why doctors recommend that you get plenty of rest when you're recovering from surgery or illness, because you need that relaxation for the body to do its healing part. And the healing that happens most effectively and most rapidly when we're in this deep delta stage of sleep. So deep sleep is where the healing in the bodies occurs most effectively. So if you're stressed out, you don't necessarily sleep well, and that's working against your body also. So basically, all we're really doing to heal from these incurable conditions, and particularly AS, is letting go of the stress. Letting go of the stress. That's really all it amounts to. That's reversing the cause of the condition. And then we move on to part 2, which is repairing the damage. So to live a more patient life helps with both of those factors.
Absolutely. And you do mention how there's such a huge importance on reversing the cause, which is these layers of stress that most of us don't even realize we're in. These unconscious things. And impatience is definitely one of them. I think back about when I was pre-diagnosed, but filled with a ton of pain, and I was extremely impatient. I talked about this at the beginning of this podcast. And as we're sitting here discussing, I can just think of example after example after example of where I was really impatient with myself. And I can see now how stressful that was. And I didn't recognize it at the time.
Impatience is always a matter of self. It's not because of something like the train is late, so I'm impatient because the train is late. The train is late is just what is. Impatience is an internal attitude that we espouse whenever we feel rushed or inconvenienced because what it is that we'd like to have happen isn't happening. So we're resisting what is, and that's stressful. So impatience and patience are inside jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to jump back up to the lesson and kind of break it apart a little bit and explain something. So Peter says that infinite patience pays immediate rewards. Let's talk about Peter's example with the train. Say I'm standing waiting for the train to come and it's late. I can stand there and be stressed out, thinking about my to-do list, all the engagements that are on the other end of when I get off that train. But that doesn't actually help anything. It just creates a lot of conflict in the moment and in my body. And so if I can stand there and be patient, then all of a sudden the immediate reward that I'm paid is that I have more peace of mind. My body's more relaxed. I can actually think clearer about what my actions will be when I get out of the train on the other side. Instead of just sitting there angry, stressed out, and creating a lot of tension in my body because I want things to be different than they are.
So you put your finger right on the trigger there, man. That's exactly right. Because this is how infinite patience produces immediate results. The result that it produces is inner peace.
Yeah.
And inner peace establishes emotional balance, and that leads to dynamic healing in mind and body. And with this healing comes confidence and certainty. So whenever you have a certainty for an outcome, patience is easy. When you're certain of an outcome, you're certain that something's going to take place, patience is easy. So things like worry and doubt and those stressful attitudes just fade away organically. Because where there's certainty, there's no room for doubt or worry. So the key to manifesting whatever you want to experience is certainty. And patience becomes easy when you have certainty. So that's how infinite patience produces immediate results.
Yeah.
And with the certainty and the trust that you have, you tap into the power of creation. Some people call it the power of attraction. I call it the power of creation. So you don't have to be concerned about how your intention is going to show up. You just know it'll show up. You have the certainty and you have patience for it, no matter how long it takes. That's what I'm in for. So then you feel it in your heart and you just let the universe do the rest. Nature does the hard part. The universe, God, nature, whatever you want to call it, that does the hard part. You just set your intention. So your role is to focus yourself and have patience. And when you have this skill and apply it properly, you become a very powerful creator. And that's what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned certainty. And our brains like certainty. They like structure. They like to know what's real and what's not real. And one very logical conclusion is that patience is a very, very healing thing. Because when we're patient, we're relaxed and our body lets go of stress.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a state of being.
Yeah.
So now you see how it is that infinite patience pays immediate results and rewards.
And as I think about how I applied this, and still do, but especially when I was healing from AS, the pain didn't necessarily go away. It's not like I hit this place of, okay, I'm finally going to be patient. Here we go. My body took a little bit of time. You actually, so I have this written down for today. On page 37 of Heal for Real, you say everything is created twice, first in the mind and then in the world of form. And so for me, I became more and more patient. And that allowed me to let go of the struggle and the kind of the constant suffering that being impatient was putting me in. And that would immediately pay with more peace of mind, more presence, more acceptance. And then the body would come and match me there. It would feel a little bit better. And then I would notice all of a sudden, okay, I feel better. I want to go do all these things. There's all these things on my list I haven't been able to do because I've been in a bunch of pain. So then I started to get a little more impatient again and kind of excited. But then pain might come back, another flare might come back. And so I would be patient again. And I would learn this skill. As you say, it is a learned skill. So we get better at it with every time we practice. And then I could fall back into the state of being that is patience, easier the next time and easier the next time. And all of a sudden I was living in that state more often than not. And that's when the magic really happened with the physical part of healing. The body quickly followed.
That's how it works. You were in the flow. This is what the Chinese refer to as Tao, the flow. And in the Japanese culture, it's Zen. So you got in alignment with that force, that Tao, that Zen. So the opposite thing that people do is they attempt to hurry things along, right? They want things to happen now, or they try to force something to happen right away. Let me ask you this question. If you were sure that infinite patience produces immediate results, wouldn't you do everything you could to develop infinite patience?
Yeah.
So trust and verify. Remember last podcast, we talked about trust and how essential that is to an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what certainty is. Certainty is trust.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that infinite patience pays immediate rewards, keep trusting and flowing with that, and you'll see it come true in your life without you having to do anything about it. You just get into the flow in the unison with the universe of what is, and nature does the hard part. Heals the body. You don't have to know how to heal your body. It heals by itself. When you get the blockages out of the way, the impediments are gone, the doubt, the worries, the fears, the anger, the negative attitudes, the resistance. You let all that go, and you open up to the flow of what is. That's patience.
Mm-hmm.
It takes patience.
And like you said, patience doesn't always mean a long, long, long wait until something good comes. It can actually be just like that, immediately. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we say infinite patience. If you're always patient, you find immediate rewards everywhere you turn around. There's a reward that appears. So we celebrate the victories. We celebrate the small victories and the large victories. And that's one of the techniques of self-awareness and actually wealth consciousness, health and wealth consciousness, which are the same thing called abundance, abundant health and abundant wealth, abundant love, abundant joy, abundant peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So celebrate those things often.
Yeah. When I think about patience too, I've noticed that I'm amazed at how many things come to me that I didn't have to like work hard and strive for.
That's it.
Yeah, it's being in the flow or in the Tao. Is that how you said it too?
Yeah, it's spelled Tao. It's pronounced Tao in Chinese dialect, one Chinese dialect, Mandarin. And it's the flow of nature. It's the flow of life. It's the flow of currency. It's the flow of light. It's the flow of awareness. It's the flow. You know when you're in the flow, you know when things are flowing along and you're not resisting anything and you're moving through life in a way that feels aggrandized. It feels wonderful. It's marvelous and it's miraculous. And all you're doing is just going with the flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you know how that feels, and you've applied it in your own life towards healing, health, wealth, and happiness, love, joy, and peace of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It taught me to be more patient with myself, which in turn lowered stress, which allowed me to be more patient with other people, allowed me to be more patient with my job. So I was a better employee at the time.
Yes.
And it certainly has brought a profound level of peace of mind and fun into my life. Like just letting go of any level of stress that we can become aware of. Like things just keep on getting better. And patience, such a good one.
And life gets better and better. It's
Yeah.
true. No matter what happens, it just gets better and better. And when you learn the lessons of what is happening and what is, and you don't resist it, then you don't need to learn those lessons anymore and they happen less often. It
Hmm.
really does work that way. That's the flow of Tao. That's the flow of currency. Currency, everything flows. Everything likes to flow. Water flows, air flows, electricity flows, love flows. And when you block the flow within yourself, then you create backups and resistance that cause so-called incurable conditions like depression and chronic pain and chronic illness.
Hmm.
So when we let all that go, and part of that letting go is acceptance. In fact, it's all about acceptance, and patience is a form of acceptance. That's when we can open up to the flow once again. And that's all people really need to do to live happy, healthy lives, is open to the flow and remove the blockages within themselves. And actually, you don't remove the blockages by focusing on removing blockages. You focus on the opposite virtues, like patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what
uh,
removes the blockages.
yeah.
So instead
Yeah.
of fighting against yourself and fighting against your blockages, that's a waste of time and energy. Just focus on what really lights you up and what turns you on, and be patient and know this too is on its way. It's on its way right now. And that establishes that certainty, which gives you that personal power that creates all the results that you're looking for.
Hmm. Well, I'll say one more thing and then I'll let you close on it. You're talking about everything flowing. Money flows, the weather, the wind, everything's blowing and moving, and health and the healing potential of the body is flowing through all of our veins and every cell in our body. And impatience stops the flow. So being patient opens up the healing potential for it to flow throughout the body.
It's all about flow. And flow is currency. So, we call money currency, but electricity is also currency. Love is currency. Air is currency. Water flows in currents. Emotions are currency. It's all currency. So stay on the proper side of currency. Electricity is a wonderful thing. It can cook your dinner, but it could also burn your house down.
Yeah.
So stay on the correct side of flow. And patience is one wonderful way to do that, with the inner flow of health, wealth, and happiness, love, joy, and peace of mind. As I keep saying, those are what really count and matter in life.
I'm so glad people are listening in and finding such benefit in this work. So Peter, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Skylar. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity. So many people out there can really benefit from what we're doing, and you are making it possible to change the lives of so many countless people who are in suffering and would rather not be. So I appreciate that fully and gratefully. Thank you for being who you are and doing what you do.
Thank you for the words, Peter. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Upward and onward.
Upward and onward. We'll have you on the show again soon. Enjoy the holidays.
I will indeed. You too.
All right. See you, Peter.
See ya.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. As you know by now, patience is important. Patience is one of the keys to healing. Patience with yourself, patience with your body, patience with those around you, patience with the way that your life looks right now. We talked about the flow of health and the flow of vibrancy in our bodies. And impatience is a constricting force on the healing flow of energy. If I cut my finger and I take good care of it, I'm patient, I do what's necessary to keep the finger clean, it's going to heal pretty quick. Now I want you to think about this. say I cut my finger, and then I were to tie a string around one of my knuckles that cuts off the circulation to the cut. That's kind of what impatience does in our whole nervous system. It stops the healthy healing flow of energy. It's like a string tied around my finger, cutting off the circulation to the very part of my finger that I want to receive the healing. So let down the impatience in whatever way you can. Maybe that means slowing down. Right now, all of us are our homebodies, probably more than we have been because of the pandemic. So in a way, your environment right now is likely actually asking you to be more patient with yourself, with your family, with your body. And trust me, it is a practice that will keep on giving as your life moves forward. And it is one of the most important things to unblock the body's current blockages that have so far prevented you from healing from AS. Think about the habit that Peter shared with us today and how infinite patience pays immediate rewards. We talked about how that can look with my example with the train. In your life today, I want you to apply Peter's habit, specifically in how infinite patience pays immediate rewards. What can you be patient about right now that immediately will relax your body? There's something going on in your mind that is asking you to be patient. And if we do not take that lesson and we choose to be impatient, it's just going to keep stressing us out. So where can you be patient and feel for yourself the immediate softening and relaxing of your body? And I want you to really experience this. So find something that's working, something that's real, so that you can feel this and experience it for yourself. Because Peter and I can talk philosophy and concepts forever, and all of it remains theoretical until you create an experience for yourself to make it real, to bring it home, to feel in your own body what we're talking about and how it can work for you. With that, I wish everyone happy holidays. Be patient with yourself, be patient with your family, be patient with everything that you can in life. And as we have said, the more patient you can be, the higher quality of life you will have, and the faster things will work in your favor. You can contact me at skydenton.com if you have any questions. You can contact Peter at asvictors.com. The show's been a ton of fun, and the outreach is just growing. So thank everyone for sharing. If you'd like to see these podcasts in video form, you can go to Facebook or YouTube and search Ankylosing Spondylitis Reduce Your Pain, and you will see us. Happy holidays, be patient, and we will see you all very soon.